these are not normal political times, and how much of the reason for it can be traced to the former president and his voter fraud lies, in this case about losing the state of Georgia. According to Reuters, top election officials in the state and their families are facing violent threats and intimidation delivered them in text messages, emails, and voicemails. Also, the state's top election official, a Republican, says a family member's home was broken into. More from 360's Gary Tuckman.
One of the text messages said, "You and your family will be killed very slowly."
Linda So is a journalist with Reuters who just wrote a story about the threat to election workers following Donald Trump's election loss. The text she read was sent to the wife of Georgia's Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger.
That previous text came from a sender called Raffensperger@revenge.us.
A made-up name that has so far been untraceable. Trump has made his hostility to Raffensperger very clear. This was 2 days before the Capitol insurrection.
Hello, Georgia. By the way, there's no way we lost Georgia. There's no way. That was a rigged election.
Reuters reports the Raffensperger family has received a constant stream of threatening texts for months. Keep opposing the audit of Fulton County's 2020 election ballots, and somebody in your family is going to have a very unfortunate incident. That came from the address murder@raffensperger.com. And please pray. We plan for the death of you and your family every day. I'm sorry. From America@Jesus.com. The Secretary of State and his wife made a decision to go into temporary hiding following the multitude of threats and after an intimidating house break-in that their daughter-in-law and grandchildren endured.
She returned to her home one evening with her children to find that the garage door had been pulled up. The door leading to her house was open. All of the lights in the house had been turned on. Items within the house had been moved around, but nothing was taken.
Many other election workers have been threatened. Richard Barron is the Fulton County, Georgia elections director. We talked to him as absentee ballots were being processed and scanned in a Georgia presidential race that at the time was too close to call.
You haven't gotten pressure from the campaigns, but do you feel pressure on your shoulders? Well, yes, because we want to make sure all the votes count.
Election workers did their jobs well, but Trump's lies and innuendos resulted in the elections director receiving
hundreds of phone calls, emails, threatening hanging. There was one in particular that really alarmed him. A caller had said that they were planning on standing him before a firing squad and killing him.
And here is the audio of one of those phone calls.
I think you need a pair of handcuffs slapped on you. It's quite obvious the fraud that went on. So why don't you just come out and admit it and quit jerking the American people around? Just wondering how much they paid you. When I'm done with you, you'll be in prison.
The day after the Capitol insurrection, CNN asked Brad Raffensperger what he would say to Donald Trump.
Well, obviously, that's why I've said from day one that we have to be really mindful of our speech, because we can't spin people up and play people and get them into emotional frenzy, emotional state. Deal with the facts.
The Secretary of State says he and his wife have had to spend a considerable amount of time away from their grandchildren since the election because of the threats. They just want to keep them safe. He says he's a conservative Republican, but he can't believe what's happened to his party. He says we got to clean up our backyard. And he also said this interesting thing, John. He said this country is bigger than just one person, a clear reference to Donald Trump. John?
Gary Tuckman, thank you. The news continues, so let's hand it over to Chris for Cuomo.